bears, 3 large dogs. So
Yeah.
we are live. Welcome, everybody. This is Travis Smith with Contractor Connection, and I'm here with Natalie Felder, licensed real estate agent, absolute rock star in the business. And she does business in both Austin and Dallas, and I think pretty much everywhere in between. So excited to have
Yep.
her on.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And so excited to have her on because she has some really cool perspectives about the two areas, the differences between them and whatnot. First, just wanted to go over a couple things. We have the legal class tomorrow. I think we still have maybe 2 seats left. We've already submitted our questions to the lawyer. If you want to come, if you're a verified member, it's free. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be so helpful for people who don't have the opportunity to meet with a lawyer and pay the $300 to $400 an hour it is to do that. You'll get some questions answered, and they'll have contracts and liens. I know we have our own opinion of lawyers right now as real estate agents, but that's a whole other story. But it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really educational, and we'll have some snacks and drinks. Hope to see everybody out there. And then on Tuesday, I will be up in one of Natalie's neighborhoods up at his Fort Worth, not Dallas, Fort Worth, at Woodrow's for our first DFW area get together. And Natalie and I were kind of talking about spots to go for that. But yeah, that's what we have going on. That's what we have coming up. Of course, as you see right below me, Contractor up. We're starting to roll out. I got a few websites in the portfolio for y'all to check out if you want to see the product we're putting out. Real fancy and nice, and we're excited about the momentum we're building with that. But Natalie, how's it going?
It's going, man. It's going. Just staying alive. Quoting the Bee Gees, staying alive.
It has been a fun time to be a real estate agent these last 4 years, hasn't it?
Oh my God. I've been licensed 5 years, and I understand that I'm probably asking for too much, asking for just one nice, easy, smooth year. I still want it. I don't care if I'm asking too much. It's something I'm going to always want. But I usually fine because the footprint that I cover has helped keep me alive more than just being like hyper focused on one area.
Yeah, definitely. This year has been probably the most normal out of the last 4, even though we're still fighting some pretty high interest rates. Our boy Jay Powell came out today and said probably not going to raise rates. But that's an entire conversation change from what we were having a few months ago when we were talking about cuts. Now we're talking about hopefully we don't have to raise them. And Friday's jobs number will be a big point going towards that, and something to really look at, because I really feel like rates right now are about as high as they can be for buyers to still be wanting to be in this market. I know, but I think they're also at the top of the range. I personally think they're at the top of the range they're going to be. Like we
have to be, honestly, because I mean, if rates just go much higher, it's just going to choke the life out of the entire industry. Like buyers already are struggling to afford it, and like you can't put that kind of pressure on people. It's not fair.
And as you know, when you represent buyers right now, the big place to take them, and I hate to say this because there's so many lenders I love, and they're better lenders, but you go to these new build communities where they have these rates at like 4.5%, and they cover the entire cost of the buy down for it. And so that makes it, the new builds are still doing pretty decently, but they're also cutting down on their production, at least nationally. And I know here in Austin, there's not near as many communities being built as there was 5 years ago. Are you there, Natalie? I think you froze. Well, let's see if Natalie can't return to the return to the land of the living with us. But yeah, like I was saying, Jay Powell came out and said, probably not going to raise rates. So I think we are at the top of the interest rate area. I still think if you're renting, buying is a better option if you're going to be in a spot for more than about 5 years, especially in Austin, where we saw a bump in the much higher rise in the market, and then a much earlier fall. Like we crashed in Easter of 22 is when the crash started here. So we're actually ahead of the curve of some of these other big cities. And I think we just had more of a stable, slightly slow decline. We saw price decreases as our lowest or as our biggest statistic, which means that like we're having about, I think I saw 1,400 listings come out in the last week, and we have 1,700 price decreases. So it's like, I don't know if I think we're a little over 10,000 in the inventory. So it's like almost 20% of our inventory on a weekly basis is seeing price decreases. So I have people ask me, and I got asked earlier today when I posted some of my market stats about whether or not, it was a buyer's market or a seller's market. But I honestly think right now it's a balanced market. Natalie's back with us, so I'm going to bring her back on so you don't have to just listen to me.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Anyways. Yeah, I've just caught the tail end of that, and I agree. I think we're seeing a lot more balance than we saw during the pandemic. Like hell and gone more balanced.
Oh gosh, 21. I remember in 21 standing in line with the buyer for 45 minutes to go into a vacant go house, and that line was literally like down the street. It was the craziest thing. And the thing is, if you think about it, those people who bought at like in 22, for instance, there was houses in 78745, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet going for like $900,000.
Yeah.
And those are $550,000 houses right now.
Yeah.
Like those people, they're stuck,
Yeah.
and there's no way to rent it out to cover what their payment is on that either. The only thing they have going for them is the fact that they probably have a rate in the 2s or 3s.
Yep.
But they are definitely underwater on those houses, and I think will be for a while. I don't think we're just going to pop right back up to the prices that we had. I think it's going to take probably 5-8 years to get back up to the levels that we saw at the heights of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's the increase in property values during the pandemic was not sustainable, like by any means. And I hate that because I have sellers who would I would love to see that for them. I would love it for them. It's just not there. And really, it kind of never should have been there to begin with. It's for that exact reason that you're saying. They are stuck. The people that purchased during the pandemic, like they're not selling unless they absolutely have to. And it's because their balance exceeds the ability to sell at that price. And even if they offer somebody a wrap mortgage, it's not going to change anything. They still owe more than what that property will even appraise for today. So,
yeah.
And renting, I'm sure that their payments probably significantly more reasonable because it's a lower interest rate, but you're not getting that amount of money for rent.
No,
this is not happening.
You can get good rents down in 78745, but not enough to cover a $900,000 note.
No.
Rents I have seen. So I've talked to quite a few agents about this. A lot of the agents that I'm friends with are, work with investors. Some are saying the rents are holding steady, but I've talked to others where the rents are coming down in some pretty nice areas of Austin. They're just having a harder time filling some of these spots. There's a triplex that we worked on off of Shoal Creek Boulevard. Nice, convenient area. The triplex is pretty decent. They were all 2 and 3 bed, 2 baths, and they were only going for like, I think $1,500, and they had been renting out before that for $1,700. I thought that was a fantastic deal. I was like, I'm right here myself, but but you're starting to see, and in a lot of cities right now, on just a payment basis, renting is cheaper, but if you're, like I said, if you're going to be in a place for more than a few years, you still, if you're renting, you still want to buy and have that equity being
Yeah.
built, because when we talked about the people who are underwater, we're not going to go down another $200,000 or $300,000. It's not happening. I really think, like I said, Austin's near the bottom. I think most of the cities, I think we bottomed out or pretty close to it. So it's safe to buy right now, and you stay in that house for 5 years. You appreciate. You pay a little bit of it off, and then you get yourself on that home ownership ladder.
Right. No, and that's been my advice to every single buyer is if you talk to your lender, and if you can afford the payment, if you are comfortable with the payment, buy the damn house. Just buy it. If it's stretching your comfort level a little, you still should consider buying the damn house. If you cannot afford the payment, period, end of story, keep renting. Just, it's not that rent's going to get any cheaper. Yeah, it's not that renting is going to get much cheaper, but if you need to buy yourself 6 months to a year until you can get to that place, then buy yourself that time. Absolutely, because it's brutal. Especially with just the entirety of prices around the Austin Metroplex area. It's so hard to find something under 300,000 right now. And the homes that you are finding under 300,000 are in the middle of nowhere, uninhabitable, or itty bitty. And
yes,
like there's nothing reasonable.
They're mostly in like Southeast Austin, like 78724 zip code, kind of down by Del Val. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I have a story of 2 listings where I have a 1.1 in Liberty Hill and an acre, 4,000 square feet, custom everything. Just, it feels like $1 million house, right? And on Easter weekend, we got three showings in 4 days. We got an offer. Buyer financing fell through, and it's been kind of crickets since. But I had a listing here in my neighborhood that put on for $419 because I saw where everybody else was. We have like 5 houses in the neighborhood, and they're all priced what I would consider optimistically. So I just priced it where I had just sold a house recently, a little bit higher price per square foot, and we got multiples. And went under contract today, which I'm super excited about. But it's very interesting because even at $419, that's almost starter house price in Austin.
Yeah,
you know, which is unfortunate because $419 at this interest rate, that's probably like a $3,500 payment. And a $4,000 payment.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's, if that's 40% of your monthly income pre-tax, that means that you or your partner together have to be making $10,000 a month, which that's a lot of money.
That's asking a lot.
I know a lot of people. Yeah. I could not buy my house again if I wanted to. I bought it in 2019.
Irony.
Yes. I literally cannot afford my house. I bought it in 2019. I refied in 21. So I'm staying here I'm going to own this house for the rest of my life, but I'll be staying here for a really long time. I really love this neighborhood. I love this little pocket of the Austin area. It's very nice to get around to places. So
I dig that. But
tell us, Natalie, some of the differences that you see right now between Dallas and Austin in terms of first real estate and or construction.
Well, okay, let me settle in for this. So the most noticeable difference between Dallas and the DFW Metroplex and the Austin metro area is affordability. In DFW, you have no shortage of luxury, and it can be any form of luxury of what you want. Do you want modern, like Swedish kind of sterile type luxury? We got you. You want mid-century modern with Japanese maples and no HOA, and we got you. Do you want high rises in a totally walkable area with killer views? Also available. But it's also an area where you can find homes under 300,000 with relative ease that are not complete and total pieces of crap. So, I mean, the property taxes in some areas gets a little out of control, but I think that they're still significantly lower. They run between 1.2 to 1.76 in most
Shut the
areas.
front door.
It's the property taxes are not bad for
Down
what you're
here, if you're
getting.
in the twos, you're doing
Mhm.
fantastic.
I know.
You
I
know
know.
that.
Now, some of their property, so there are some areas like Lower Greenville. There's a bunch of neighborhoods where it's not, the property taxes are going to cost you, but you can look around and say, okay, this makes sense. Some of the property taxes around the Austin area, it's like, I'm sorry, what am I paying for? And I think, in my humble opinion, I attribute a lot of that to school districts. There's a lot of competition throughout DFW, lots of competition. Like Garland ISD, you can pick any school. If you live within the district, you can pick any school, send your kids to any school you want to go to, doesn't matter.
Wow.
Fort Worth has a very diverse independent school district. They have magnet schools. They've got your standard public schools. There's just a lot of options. And so because of that diversity in competition, you're having to get more bang for your buck to attract people, because the whole metroplex up there is just a gigantic footprint, huge.
Yeah.
And the way that the grid is, you've got outer loops, you've got inner loops, and if you needed to, you can get from one end of the metroplex to the other in about 2 hours, worst case scenario. And I know that sounds like a long drive, but considering the fact that there are some places in South Austin that will take me an hour and a half to drive less than a mile, it's not that bad. It's really
I don't
not.
drive during those times of the day anymore. I can't do it. Houston's that
Well,
way
and
too,
then
though. Even without traffic, Houston is like an hour and a half to get from one end of it to the other by itself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Well, and
country.
Well, and in Dallas too, the thing that I appreciate about it is its connectability. Everybody that if you live and drive in Dallas, you know where you're going. And you're in a hurry to get there. Blinkers are considered a sign of weakness. So if you're ever driving around DFW, just hit the gas and go. Like don't indicate where you're going.
Texas, and I refuse to believe anything else. Houston, everybody goes fast. In Austin, everybody goes one of two speeds, right? They either go really slow or really fast. Sometimes people run into each other.
Yeah.
Dallas,
well, it's like no one knows where they're going. No one knows where they're going here.
They all just moved.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like with DFW, it's just everyone knows where they're going. Everybody's in a hurry to get there. And so if you are driving and you're using your blinker, it's obvious you're not from there, and they will run you over. They will have no problem running you over. But
keep that in mind when I go up there next week.
Yeah, like just floor it, go, hurry up and go.
I don't have a problem doing that, so
good. Yeah, I think you'll do fine. But and then as far as construction goes, the thing that I love the most about practicing in DFW is that while everything stays the same in its essence, it is always changing. Neighborhoods, you can look at a place and find some cheap houses and be like, ugh, gross, dumpy, I never want to live there. But all it takes is a couple of investors sinking their teeth into that neighborhood, and now it's completely changed. Like we were talking earlier, and I'd mentioned two neighborhoods. One is Deep Ellum, and then the other is Oak Cliff. And 10 years ago, if you had told me that either one of these properties would have multi-million-dollar houses, I would have laughed in your face and called you crazy. Like it's not going to happen. And here we are. You can find them, like glamorous, gorgeous homes. And it's because it's prime territory, and it's always been prime territory. And from a personal perspective, I've always found that heartbreaking, because that is, in effect, that is gentrification. But it's also just the natural evolution that things end up taking at some point. Is investors are always on the hunt, And so when they are picking up properties and renovating, upgrading neighborhoods, construction is always going to be mandatory.
Yeah.
And there's always new commercial coming into DFW, you know, like where one building closes down, someone else is going to turn around and occupy it at least within a year. Some of the more rundown commercial buildings are, you know, getting bulldozed to make room for multifamily housing or something else. So, I mean, there will never be a shortage of business for construction workers and general contractors for really any industry ever. The other thing too, and this is where I think Contractor Connection comes in really, really valuable, is as much as investors are buying and changing the landscape of the DFW Metroplex, you also have individual buyers who, you know, look at something that was maybe built in the 40s or the 50s, and you know the floor plan is obsolete. It's like a 3 or 4 bedroom, 1 bathroom house, but it's got tons of square footage. Yeah. And so, you know, what are you going to do? Well, that's easy. You turn it to a 3-2, easy peasy lemon squeezy. But where that sounds easy in theory, in Dallas and Fort Worth proper, you need permits, and there's a lot of things you need. You can't do these kinds of projects yourself. And trying to find somebody who is reputable, that knows what they're doing and does it properly. So that way, because the city of Dallas, they're going to get their pound of flesh. They're going to take their money, like, period, end of story. And so, I mean, it's not where they're going to like force you to move out of your house, but if you don't do it right the first time, they're going to take their pound of flesh. So having qualified contractors who know what they're doing, who do it the right way, you get what you pay for, and you get a better service as a result of it. And having a one-stop shop where you can find hey, I need a plumber who can add a bathroom. I need someone who can frame for this addition. I need somebody who can build a fence. I need to get my roof replaced, because that's the other thing. In North Texas, we get weather.
Yeah.
We get lots of weather. We get rain, we get hail, we get tornadoes, we get all sorts of stuff.
Y'all gonna get some thunderstorms tonight.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, God, I'm seeing contractors hollering at each other left and right for, replacing roofs, because it's just North Texas has been getting pounded by hail. So, having somewhere where you can go and find a good adjuster or a quality roofer, just for all the miscellaneous projects that people need for both residential and commercial, Contractor Connection is the most valuable resource out there. And it's a great place, because I was so jazzed when you started DFW, because I've got a lot of people that I trust in the DFW Metroplex that I love sharing on a as widespread of a basis as I can possibly get. But this actually, by inviting them to that group, I get to take them like North Texas wide. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And that group has been our fastest growing group now for a couple of months. I mean, and we're getting jobs posted in there. Yes, I know. I see some of that stuff. And a lot of people say that they're referred by friends, and I really appreciate that. But it's grown. We're not even a year old there, and we're over 8,000. Yep. And it's hundreds of people a week these days that are going into that group. And it's pretty exciting. Like I said, we're going to be doing our first meetup there. And I've seen Facebook posts from other, what I consider really reputable, big time general contractors who have been doing it in Austin for a long time. And I'm not going to say any names, because I don't know if they wanted those conversations public, even though they were having them on their pages. But multiple well-respected, good GCs talking about they're having a hard time finding work right now here in Austin, which has never had before. And I know it's not because they've screwed things up. I know it's not because they don't do a good job. I know, when as real estate dries up, So does a lot of the construction work. How many times we have
Yeah.
buyers that go in and they want to immediately remodel a whole house, you know?
Well,
And
and if you think about the growth
we
that
also
Austin
know a
has
lot of investors.
Oh, I was just going to say, and with all
What's
the
that?
growth that Austin has had in the last, God, we'll just say 4 years, just 4 years, everything that was old needed work. Most of those are gone now. The majority of them are gone. They have long since been bought, flipped, redone, remodeled, bulldozed, whatever. And so it's just, Austin doesn't have that big of a footprint to maintain that kind of a business. You have to start branching out into
No, because
Bastrop.
20 years ago, it was, yeah, 20 years ago, it was a town of like 200,000 people. I mean, not 200,000, but it was a much, much smaller town. So
It was
unlike a Dallas or
700,000 when I moved
Houston,
here in 2007.
dang,
700,000. Yeah.
and
Blech.
that's just, like you said in Dallas, it's been so big for so long that they have all these extra older houses. That's an advantage that Houston has had as well, is they
Yeah.
have such a deep inventory, and that's why
Yes.
their prices, they've gone up, but they didn't go up near as much as ours did, and they're not going to have near as violent of a crash as Austin did.
Yes.
But another thing is, if you're an investor, do you really want to flip in Austin right now, or do you want to go to San Antonio? Do you want to go to Dallas? Do you want to go to Houston? Personally, I would go to Dallas or Houston or San Antonio before I would go to Austin. I'd even go to some small towns right now before I go to Austin.
Oh, yeah.
If you're an investor thinking about rentals, if you're an investor thinking about rentals right now, Austin's cap rate has always been terrible. And now that you're not getting the appreciation and the rents are somewhat dropping, it's really hard to convince an investor to go get a $500,000 house that's only going to rent out for like $1,800 to $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
You're not going to cash flow on that. So
well, and especially since Austin has grown out, like there's nowhere really left for Austin to expand. And it's not that DFW has anywhere to expand, but it's because of how well connected this area is. It doesn't feel like you can be in Salina, which is way, way north. You can be in Prosper, McKinney. And while that's a hike to get to Dallas, it is a hike. It's still connected. You hop on one of 3 highways and you could be in Dallas City Center if you need to. And so you have connections, you have connectability, and it's always expanding further and further out, like Lake Texoma. For anyone looking, like if you're an investor and you're watching this and you are being like, where should I go? What should I do? Lake Texoma.
is blowing up.
Like it's not even there yet. It's not even there. And there is so much lakefront property that is nothing but a bunch of mobile homes, lean-tos, RVs, because no one cares up there. The closer you get to the Red River, the less people
in Oklahoma.
Care. Yes. Well, and Ardmore is about to blow up as well. So all of that area up there is just, there's so much of an attraction because it's beautiful. The hill country used to be stunning. You could drive all over the city of Austin and see woods and rolling hills. Now it's just nothing but a bunch of McMansions. Yeah. And and traffic. But you go to Dallas
and Marble Falls and let's see what else, Johnson City and those kind of places. But even they have just exploded, Yeah. Marble Falls now compared to where it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, there's so much that is constantly cycling out. And, with DFW too, the tastes are always changing. Like people's tastes are always evolving. And so if you have a neighborhood that, say, investors sank their teeth into 5 years ago, that house, that style, that floor plan doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And as more people are constantly and so people are going to be looking to update that and change that and adjust it. It's like, how can I make this house more modern? There's no shortage of business, and there's no shortage of things to do and places to be. And so it's always going to attract people. It's a city or a metroplex of about 10 million people. That's a lot of people. And it's dense, like for per people per square mile, but you can still spread out. You can
There's
still
still
feel
some
like you
open
spread out.
spaces, I feel like, around that area.
Hmm.
And like you said, it's unlike Austin, which really Austin never wanted to grow this big.
No.
Like the people back then really fought to not have that happen. I did not grow up in Austin, but my dad did. My mom was from Round Rock, and then grandparents, great grandparents, going back to like the 1870s, I think is when my German family like settled in South Austin, or whatever you consider South Austin today. I'm sure it was like South Lamar or something like
Right.
that. But they never wanted to be like those other cities. And
No.
then Michael Dell just kind of changed that whole paradigm by turning it into the tech city that it is right now. And, there's ups and downs with that because there's a lot of volatility in tech employment. Expedia, which is a huge employer here, has laid people off. Everybody knows about Tesla. We talked before we came on camera about Oracle moving to Nashville, Nashville being basically the next city to be in. And we can understand why, because we're talking about property taxes, which I didn't realize how cheap they were. I'm actually going to be moving to Nashville next week now.
Take me with you.
I just need to figure out a way to take my interest rate with me, and then I'll be good,
God, seriously. No, and it's as comfortable as people want to try to get in their in growth and process, and it's never permanent. It's never permanent. And the only times it is permanent is when the grid is built for that degree of permanence. Austin's grid just does not support that degree of permanence. We put, cool houses
that aren't loops.
Yeah, like 360 is a C. It's a C. It's not even a loop. And there is not one highway that goes from east to west. Palmer is the closest you come to it, and that still doesn't go east to west. So, with Dallas, it's not that hard. You can't get lost in the DFW Metroplex. You can't. It doesn't matter. Go up there with no GPS. Just don't bother with GPS. Just drive. And it doesn't matter if you find yourself in a neighborhood, you'll eventually spit out onto a major road. Eventually, it's only a matter of time. There's some areas where you probably should keep your doors locked if you're driving around in them. But
I've been to some of those places in Dallas.
Well, and it's like realistically, if you're driving like a Grand Wagoneer or like a Porsche, then you're in trouble. Well, and you drive a Tesla, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you probably should be careful. I drive a Camry, so I blend in. I blend in with places pretty well. It's the ultimate mom mobile. But I mean, realistically, like when I get buyers who are shopping around the DFW Metroplex, the number one question I get asked is crime. What is crime like? And so my first question to their question is, well, what is your threshold for crime? Are you concerned with gunshots on a regular basis? Are you concerned with, petty property damage, loud noise? Like, what is your threshold? Because it's a big city. It's a big city. And when you have a city that has such a disparity between the lowest income neighborhoods and the highest income neighborhoods, and they sit right next to each other, the high income neighborhoods, even though you're paying a pretty penny for it, you're probably going to deal with more crime than if you had just decided to move somewhere out in the country that had higher crime and not dealt with any of that because the income disparity isn't there.
So I have a question for you, because they have a lot of those type of places in Houston, and in Houston, those neighborhoods are gated with guards at the gate. I've actually gone through and shown some houses in some of those neighborhoods, and like, you're not just going in there. Like, you have to have all sorts of things to get through there. Do they have those in Dallas too, in that kind of area?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're not as popular, and it's just because the mentality of that it's really not present. It's I feel safer in Dallas than I do any other city in the state. Like, just to be completely
Really?
honest. Yes.
I feel
Yeah.
super safe in Austin. I really do.
Oh, see,
And
I
I
just,
never
I,
really did in San Antonio. Well, I did in Northwest San Antonio where I
yeah,
live, like around Bandera, 1604, UTSA
it's
area.
pretty up there.
It's
Yeah.
pretty, that's, like I said, I went to college there. So that's where I kind of hung out. And I felt safe there. But whenever I would drive home to Victoria and drive through Southeast San Antonio, I did not feel as safe going through that portion,
Yeah.
especially along 87 once you get outside of downtown. It could be some pretty rowdy neighborhoods down there. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's still the case because I went to college 20 years ago. So
That's fair.
um,
Yeah. Dallas
yeah,
really just, in my opinion, it's just really not, it's not as bad. Like walking around downtown Austin, I don't feel safe, like at all. It's very nerve-wracking. I never know what I'm going to be confronted with. Whereas if I'm walking around the heart of downtown Dallas, they have got sufficient police patrols. Like now, are those police worried about every little person doing any little thing wrong? No, no. It's a giant city. They're worried about murderers. They have bigger fish to fry. They don't care that you're speeding. They don't care that you don't smoke pot in front of them, but still, they don't care about petty things.
yeah.
But they are present. They are actively working to keep the city balanced. So the handful of times I've gone walking around downtown Dallas, I don't get harassed. I've been approached by some possibly mentally unstable people that would like to talk about religion. But then I just keep walking and I go on about my life and they go on about theirs. And it's really just, there's panhandlers, but it's just, I don't know. I don't I have never dealt with as much in the DFW Metroplex as I have in Austin.
I will say before the camping ordinance was put into effect, there were things that I saw some of the unhoused people do that I really wish I had never seen.
Are you talking about the guy on 6th Street?
No, not even just him. Like I
Okay.
saw
There's one.
two different times people fornicating. One time, literally like could not avoid it. He was like, there was a guy that was like taking a dump right in the middle of the intersection of, I think it was like 5th and 35. But luckily, most of that's cleaned up, a lot of that. And they've moved, well, because so if you ever notice, they've moved into the woods, all the green
Mhm.
spaces around Austin. And if you
Yeah.
drive along the highways, they're not really under the highways anymore. And the cops stop by, DPS goes through there.
Yeah.
They make the patrols through there. But if you drive along some of those roads and you look just beyond the tree line, you'll see tents and trash. Just so much
Yeah.
trash for days over there.
I know. And honestly, of all the things that broke my heart, that made me want to move out of Austin, that was what made me want to move out. Is when I first moved here, I loved the fact that I didn't see trash. I didn't see ugly graffiti. I didn't see things that were tagged. I saw street art, but I didn't see graffiti, in the sense of like the kind of stuff I see around town now. It's just nobody cares about the city anymore. And it's trashy and it's messy. And I'm not going to say that DFW isn't trashy or messy. It is, yeah. It can get ugly. It can totally get ugly. But again, give it 5 years. It's going to change.
Well, Lord willing, Austin will continue to clean up a lot of the stuff. And I do think, I know a lot of people aren't the biggest fans, but I do think as downtown continues to get built out, it'll create a safer space. They just need a bigger police force at this point in time. They're trying to hire, they can't do it.
Yeah,
and we could go into a long story about that, but
yeah.
we don't want to do too much politics or anything like that.
Mm.
But suffice it to say, they could definitely use help.
Yeah.
And a lot of the officers that are at this point, they're the good ones. Like I've dealt with some. Even the guy that gave me a ticket, he was super nice about it. Speed limit was 55 and I was going 81 and he was like, how fast you're going? I was like, I can't drive 55. And he laughed. He still wrote me a ticket, but Before I let you go, Natalie, I really want to thank you for being on the show tonight. Do you have any listings right now that you want to share with us? Anything that you have going on you want to talk about real quick?
Yeah. So currently I've got the most spectacular listing in Bastrop. Oh my God. I'm really mad that I don't have $400,000 to buy this house because I would have done it a long time ago.
400,000 Bastrop's not bad.
No, well, so this property it's a 4-bedroom, 2 full bathroom house, 2247 square feet. It's in a cul-de-sac in the far back of a neighborhood. It's walking distance to the Colorado River and Bob Bryant Park.
Flood
And
zone?
technically, yes. Technically, yes, because it is not that far from the Colorado River. That said, when you look at the back property, it's elevated enough that I don't think that even if it did flood in a 500-year flood zone, it would ever touch the house. The rest of the yard is a whole nother question. But it's on 0.38 acres. It's got peach trees and fig trees. It's got towering pecans and hazelnuts and honeysuckle, pomegranate, a hot tub, stainless steel appliances. Yeah. Like it's got all the bells and whistles for an insanely awesome price. So that's one. And then I've got one getting ready to hit the market in Buda. This is going to be a cute little place in Bradfield Village with a 2-car garage because apparently nobody in that neighborhood built houses with garages for some reason. But anyway, mine has one. Cool house,
Huge
super
advantage.
I know, right? And then I've got one coming up in 78745. The remodel's almost done, and that's going to look spectacular. And then I've got another property in Terrell that is a very, very much a starter home, but lots of room for growth. There's no rear neighbors, big lot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage on that. And it needs some light updates, but really nothing outlandish. And that one's listed at 246. Yeah, 246.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Terrell is Dallas area, right?
It's just east of Dallas. So you can hop on either Highway 80 and it'll spit you out into North Dallas in about 30 minutes, depending on how forgiving traffic is. Or you can hop on I-20 and be in central Dallas in about 25 minutes.
Nice. There is just east of Dallas some low-key, really good barbecue spots.
Oh yeah.
Just throw that out there. Well,
Solman's.
man, so you got some pretty good listings, and you got, man, from Terrell to Buda. How's that drive like?
Oh, until I get on I-35, it's fine. Honestly, I've made my commute so much easier. So Highway 95 is probably one of the prettiest drives you could possibly take. And so 95 will take me from the east part of Dallas all the way to Bastrop, and then I can just hop on 290 and get to I-35 and then just deal with the nonsense by Creedmoor. So it's not terrible.
All of 35. That sounds amazing because especially I'm sure you've read Round Rock from 45 and Round Rock to University in Georgetown. They're going to start construction.
Yep.
And that area is already a nightmare. I would literally rather drive through downtown Austin than that part of 35.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it's insane. But speaking of downtown Austin, they're about to redo that section of 35 also, and Berry Lanes, and add new tolls and HOV lanes, and I get it, and yes. The way they originally built the Austin downtown to where it goes from 4 to 3 lanes right in the middle of downtown, like that's stupid. And that creates so much of the clog. So I get fixing that. But if we could just look at any other country, people take these high-speed trains and they can get to these huge cities really quickly and for really cheaply. And then the people will actually start doing that a lot more. And it would be so cool if we could just hop on one of those light rails from Austin to Dallas, make it in like an hour and a half, pay $20, and you step out in downtown Dallas.
Well, and I mean, it's just public transportation.
What's that?
public transportation needs to change in Austin for it to really stand any chances of becoming the metropolis that it's working on. Because, like with DART, the Dallas Area Transit, like you can go all over the place for hella cheap. You don't need a car. Like, does a car help you in DFW? Yeah, helps a whole lot. Is it required? No, it is not. So you can actually live there and not deal with the expenses of, or not deal with the commute to the same degree that a lot of other like cities like Austin is. And the infrastructure needs to catch up in Austin. They need to just go to Dallas, take some notes, and try to mirror some of that infrastructure. And I know I'm going to get a whole lot of hate for that, and I don't care. I said what I said.
We need two things: is we need a loop that goes
all the way around
out past, that gives us turn 620 into some sort of like freeway situation, right? Because there's about 800 lights between Lakeline and Lakeway,
and you'll catch every single one of them.
Oh,
every
you
one of them.
Will. I only went out to Steiner to go film Jose Cavazos with his moving company. Slips my mind at the moment. Fantastic guy though, and he was doing one at Steiner Ranch, and I was just like, man, I hit like 8 lights at like 10 o'clock in the morning. What the hell is even going on?
Nothing.
It just drives me crazy. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, Natalie. Really appreciate your perspective. Good luck on those listings, and hope to talk to you soon.
You bet. Chat later.